Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wabarakatuh. Thank you everyone for listening to the asynchronous presentation, my lecture on civilization. So unfortunately, we are not able to have this face-to-face live lecture, which is actually more engaging than this one. So let me stop this one for a while now. I have to do this again. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wabarakatuh. Today we are going to have an online asynchronous lecture on civilization. This is part of our Islamic medical curriculum input for IIUM MBBS Year 1. So my name is Jamaluddin Abdul-Rahman. I'm currently the lecturer in Department of Community Medicine. So I will be discussing with you on civilization. So you are in Year 1, you envisage to become a medical doctor. Then in our curriculum, we have Islamic medical input or Islamic medical curriculum that we try to integrate in your teaching. However, this is a dedicated session talking about something may not be related directly to MBBS. However, please take note that we want to become a doctor, but we cannot separate ourselves from the real life. And our real purpose of the creation of our purpose being here in this world is eventually to go back to our home in the hereafter, where we are going to be there forever and ever. Abadan, abadan. So when we learn medicine, we learn about anatomy, we learn about physiology, and then later when you are in Year 4 or maybe a few lectures, you will come to my department where you are going to learn about public health. So these are compartments of or the building blocks for a medical student, for you to become a doctor. But remember that our life is beyond just to become a doctor. Our purpose in life is eventually to serve Allah. We are the Khalifah of this earth, and we are here to save the humankind. After the last prophets, our beloved Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, there is no other prophet sent to this world, unlike the previous generations, the previous ummah. So the work of da'wah, the work of distributing the word of Allah is now on our shoulder. We carry this responsibility. So among others that when we design medical curriculum for UIA, especially I can relate this back to the previous Deputy Dean Postgraduate, also the Professor of Epidemiology, Professor Umar Hassan Kasule. He gave this foundation, and one of the lecture that he put is civilization. So we will see if we learn something when we study about civilization. Alright. So what is civilization? So these are the few things I will be talking about. This is the structure of our discussion, civilization, and then before we know some description about civilization, we also go back using Quran, for example, what are the stories about the good and the bad. So I will go into that, and then later we go into the usual thing we know when we talk about civilization. We know about these scenes, this history, and then we learn about the characteristic of civilization, which is and then we talk about the cycle of civilization, which is very clear cut mentioned in the first two of my subheading, which is the good, the bad, and then the ancient civilization. And then we learn about, if we segment, if we try to categorize all the time so far into few era, we see there are few epochs, the great era of time so far. And lastly, which is the most important of all, is what the lessons that we have learned. So now, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim, Allah mentioned, Ya ayuhan nas, inna khalaqnakum min dhakarin wa untha wa ja'alnakum syu'uba wa qabaila lita'arafu inna akramakum indallahi atqakum innallaha alimun khabir. So in this ayah, first of all, I'm not qualified to really dissect the Quran. Just a simple translation of or a lesson learned from this ayah is that Allah created us from one source, and one source, Adam and Eve, Adam dan Hawa. So created from a single source, from the same source comes different tribes, different generations. I will go into the good and the bad later. So there are people who go to the right side, there are people who go to the left side. So different tribe, different generation, different skin color. Even the first generation of Adam and Eve is already have different color, even from the same source, same genes. If you learn in immunology, in microbiology, why Allah created this is something very difficult for us to understand. Is that for us to know each other. Sometimes we believe that for us to know each other, for us to have our clique, our good friend is the one that has same skin color, same race, same religion. But Allah created us differently for us to learn each other, something which is very difficult for us to understand. But this is the purpose of the creation. And why is that? And then Allah said, even though He created differently, but He set the standard. The noblest of you in the sight of Allah is who? Is the one who is has the most deeply conscious of Him, who know Him very well. And then he claimed, Allah mentioned that He is the one who know everything, all aware, all knowing. So Allah tell us what have been done, why is it, why He allowed that to happen, and what will be the standard of success. All right. So we go back into civilization. What is civilization? So civilizers, civis, is coming from the word Latin, means citizen or townsman. So basically, whenever we know what this is a civilization, this is a civilization. So normally, it relates us to one level, which is the advanced state of the social development of a group of people. There are many definitions. Example like they are sometimes defined as degree of human social organization marked by the continual acquisition of new truth. Okay, now new truth. So there will be new finding, new technology from the unknown and the right from the chaotic. Okay, now, so civilization, we recognize if they arise from the ashes, they arise from the ruins, they arise from chaotic. So then you can clearly see the demarcation between civilization, new advanced state compared to the previous state. So only then you can differentiate the level of the society, so much so that you call it a civilization. And then one of the characteristics of this civilization is that the form of knowledge and ability to become the property. So this, in that civilization, there must be some distinct features about the civilization. And that another definition is that it is a culture with people who have settled in. So it must be a stable situation. Civilization is a stable situation. And then they mention there are characteristics when you see you have this is civilization. There are element of looking at science, art, and government organization is formed in that particular population. And another one they mention is that a culture with people who have settled in, work together to build a society in science, art, right? And then the expression of a system of belief, values, and principle. Okay, they work about the same. So basically, we can summarize based on few definitions of civilization. Is that civilization, first, there must be abundance of food. That's one. Second, there a clear demarcation of work, division of labor, who do what. So this is one of the characterization. And there must be some organized government, and there are also characteristics of certain religion. You will see after this when I mention about epoch later. And then there must be some evidence of communication. Communication is very one of the important element of civilization. Certain civilization is known because of the discovery of, for example, like writing, communication. So you remember those days, human, if you know that people do not really able to communicate among each other, but civilization means the way they communicate is very clear, very structured. Nowadays, communication is something that I believe everybody know how to communicate with among each other. I mean directly. And then again, I mentioned here, Allah mentioned to all of us in one of the ayah in Al-Baqarah 213, mentioned that all mankind were once a single community. Against, I go back to the first ayah, then they began to differ. Allah created us as one. Kana an-nas ummatan wahidah. So we are coming from the word wahid, one, whereupon God raised up the prophets, and then they began to differ. They are not coming together again, and then they start to have different ideas. They must have some war, quarrel, disagreement, whereby Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent prophets and Anbiya as herald of glad tidings and as warners, and through them bestowed revelation from on high, setting forth the truth, so that it might decide between people with regard to all on which they had come to hold divergent views. So basically so initially people are good, they live together very well, and suddenly there's a fractions, they have different ideas, they don't agree with one another anymore. So they have a fraction, they must be disagreement, they must have different tribes, different parties, different group that is not in agreed term, and then they fight among each other. And because of that, Allah sent the Prophet ﷺ to tell them which one is the correct one. So basically, always there is always element of the good and the bad. The one that follow the truth, the one that do not know the truth. That's why in this world, we are sent to this world. Sometimes we heard that people are talking that why, especially the atheists, they say that why do you need religion? Why you need people to tell you what to do? This is not people telling us what to do. This is God. And we must acknowledge that there are so many things that we human beings do not know. Therefore, only God, our Creator, know what is the best for us. But there's always a group of people. One who knows, one who do not know. One who assume, one don't assume. Imagine that we are created, let's say people want to board a ship. When you want to board a ship, let's say you have two level, the one on top, the one resides inside the bottom, at the bottom of the ship. Imagine that when you decide, somehow you are split into two groups. The one on top, on deck, the other one is bottom. And every time people who are at the bottom would like to get some water, they have to go up and to get the water from above, because that's how you access the water. Even though you are under the water, but you cannot access the water. You have to go up to get the water. But what if they say that I don't want to trouble people up there? I might as well just drill a hole here. I got a water directly from the bottom. No need to trouble myself to go up, or to trouble people from above to send me water down. I don't want to trouble them with all these difficulties. I might get water just by drilling the hole from the bottom, from the wall of the ship. So if the people up there do not advise them, do da'wah, tell them don't hook or don't create a hole there, because all of us will sink. So if there's now two parties, those on the deck, those inside the ship. So those on the top who knows everything must go down and tell them. So these are two groups. The one that believe they are right. Why you have to tell me what to do? I know what's the best for me. I want to drill a hole here. Then I can. That's logic. Their logic. So there always be two group of people, the good and the bad. That's the label we give. So one must tell them the other one which one is the truth. So in Quran there's so many stories about this. I'm not going to detail about this. There are so many story about the good and the bad. So I hope you go back and read about Habil and Qabil, Abel and Cain in English, Hud and Ad. So Hud alayhi salam and his tribe Ad and as Salih alayhi salam, and Thamud and the tribe, Ibrahim alayhi salam and Namrud, Musa alayhi salam and Firaun. So you can see that Musa, the Prophet Musa alayhi salam, the story about him has been mentioned so many times in Quran, so many times. Quran is a limited edition, 6,000 over words. It's very limited. For you to be mentioned in Quran, this must be reason for the whole ummah. So why Musa alayhi salam, his story of da'wah, his story of life is being mentioned in Quran not once but multiple times. There are some of the prophets not being mentioned even once, but in Musa alayhi salam mentioned many times. There's a lot of story about Moses, about Musa alayhi salam. So it is very important that we go back and look and read the story about Musa alayhi salam. So I hope you go back and read, because I'm not able to go. Actually, I have the story summary of the story here, but because this is online, so I will try to keep this as minimum as possible. So please go back and read. Please go back and read. However, I would like to summarize this story about what happened to good and bad in Al-Fajr verses 1 to 14. Many people memorize this surah. Wal-Fajr walayalin asr. So Allah mentioned, and the 10 nights, and the even and the odds, and then and the right when it departs. So this is the poetic version of the Quran. Very strong words over there, and very lovely, very nice. As though not considered truly this is an oath for men of understanding, as though not considered how the Lord dealt with Ad. So the story about Ad, of Iram, having lofty buildings. So Iram is something that and then Allah mentioned the like of which were not created in the land, and then something like the way they built is never been built before. But when Allah destroy, as if that is difficult for us to know what kind of civilization, what kind of development the Iram, in the city of Iram, have. Because of, but there is some historians believe that this is an example of one of the buildings of Iram. We never know. And then mention about and with Thamud, who hewed out rocks in the valley. So they created a valley. They created houses from the rock, and of course Pharaoh, the Lord of hosts, who exceeded limit in the cities and made great mischief therein. So the Lord put on them a portion of chastisement. Surely the Lord is watchful, and for man, when his Lord tries him, then gave him honor and favors him, he says, my Lord honors me. So in this surah, in Al-Fajr, you can read some description where Allah compiled certain stories about the prophets and the tribes. So this is the what remains. And this is the ayah said by the prophets Ibrahim alayhi salam. Kulna ya nar kuni bardan wa salaman ala Ibrahim. In fact, in this ayah, the word safety is sejahtera, is so profound, so important, because some scholars say that if the ayah do not include wa salama, maybe prophets Ibrahim alayhi salam might die because of cold. Okay. This is the remnants of the great Pharaoh. Okay, and the Westerns also have described the civilization into a few ancient civilization. The one that you know. Again, there's a lot of story about this. I'm not going to go into detail. This is something that I believe you are able to read on your own. So they are prehistoric to agricultural based civilizations along big rivers. Normally the characteristics like Mesopotamia, about the civilization of Egypt in Nile, and then those in India, and also as well as in China. However, this civilization have one characteristics. They have rise, they may have become civilized, and they will fall down. And Carroll quickly in 79 mentioned about this evolution. So basically he mentioned that there is age of expansion, becoming better and better, and age of conflicts before they disappear. So basically I would like to describe this into 4 domain. One is the growth. So where a group of people become more civilized, become more structured, become more organized, so they are growing and growing. And one of the characteristics of when they want to grow is that there's always have some technology in. So with the technology they go up higher and higher. And then this is growth, and then they stabilize. If you learn in microbiology about, you know about the growth, right? There will be some peak, like COVID as well. You will achieve certain peak. So they will stabilize. This is the peak, the hallmark of the civilization. And sometimes the technology is well preserved until today. We know that very clear. But after a while, there's always a decline, where there will be conflicts, and that the other civilization may come and try to conquer them, and finally, but they will rise again. Okay, arrival of new civilization. So this happens all over the time, once after another. One rise, growing, and then stabilize, and then fall down, and then keep and repeat the cycle of civilization until the day when Allah says, this is it, the Qiyamah will come. Alright. And then if we but all the civilization, we can summarize this into few great era. So I put here there are 6 era. The first one is the 4000 before Christ. If you use BC, so before Christ, so 4000 years before the birth of Isa alayhi salam. So there would be Mesopotamia, Babylon, Egypt, where in this situation there's always an issue about war, politics, and the writings, the communication become more prominent. And then the nearer 600 to 500 before Christ, so you have philosophical and spiritual awakening. Alright, so and then Isa alayhi salam was born, and then somehow or rather the Christian fraction after Isa alayhi salam, then the Christian form. And then in 600 in the year 610, the birth of our Prophet Muhammad SAW. And if you look at the way historian describe this one, they never mention that during the Prophet SAW there's a civilization. It's not clear. Why? I mentioned characteristics: growth, stabilize, fall, new growth, new civilization. But nobody really tell that during the Mecca, during Madinah. If you don't want to Mecca, but how about Islam in Madinah? But people never mention about civilization. Never mention that this is civilization. I put myself this one as great error. But in history, they never mention about this as one civilization. Why? Because when I mentioned, I showed you the building just now, the city of Iram. And then how about Thamud, where they built the houses. They carved the mountains to build their houses. And then Fir'aun with the great pyramids. Where is the prophets and companions? What structure do they leave for people to witness? None. Why? Because our Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam never built the nation based on material, based on buildings, based on structures. No. That's the beauty of it. So what is the civilization that our Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam built? Our heart, our iman, our tawhid. So those are great things. I myself label that as civilization. If we use civilization defined by the West, none. They never acknowledge that the era of our Prophet ﷺ, the era of companion, as a civilization. Because Prophet ﷺ worked on heart. If our heart, our faith is right to Allah, No matter what happens around us, we are okay. Alright, back to history. On 14th and 15th century, we have European circular culture, and this is where Malacca established in Malaysia, and this is where science starts to develop. Previously, people talks towards spiritual awakening, maybe it's very wrong of it, and Islam come try to rectify all those things. And if you go forward to Umayyah, Abbasiyah, and then the Perang Salib kind of things, you see that we try to up, for example, like a simple thing like the status of women. Previously, in the previous years, women is something which is they belittle women, but come Islam raise the status of women. So okay, and then in the 20th century, in 1990s and above, there's entertainment is everything. In 70s, for example, drugs. People want to enjoy their life, so these are coming in. And then now it's our era, 21st century. There's the era of information, era of computer. So these are, if we were to segmentize the timelines. So in the great with the current century, communication is the one of the important element. If you can see the great technology from all era, actually communication. So you can see how the communication evolved from using pictures, image, symbols to become proper writings, and then now books, and then nowadays information like that is abundant, and now we can even talk over wireless. You can't see, you don't have wires, so wireless. So that's the technology that people are talking. Yet we believe that we can't see how our voice transmit. We can't see even the wire now. We believe that, but when people talk about iman, about Allah, about God, we don't believe, because we said that we can't see. But don't you feel it in your heart? You feel it. Don't you feel it? So this is something that hidayah is something that we have to ask from Allah. If we don't feel it, we feel far away from Allah, always make dua, so that Allah show us the right path. So those are very important. Alright. But then about civilization, communication is one of the important elements. And then I would like to talk that the belief about great belief and the value shift from, for example, like magic to religion to capitalism to entertainment. So that's how people value in life. Last time people praise those who have magical power, and then come religion to try to tell people that believe in true God, and then come the next generation where people separate religion and non-religion. So they say that this, don't put your moral value on us, okay, something like that. And come now entertainment, we forget all about those things. We believe in as long as I enjoy the life. So actually what is happening in the world now, social media. There's always a good and the bad side of social media. So very important for us, just like knife you can use to cut the fish, the vegetables, to cook, but you can use knife to kill people. So knife is not the problem here. The problem is the one who use the knife. Social media is not really a problem here. The problem is people who use social media and the one who read social media. Entertainment, you look at the movies, the video, so sex, so these are the things that drugs, something that cigarettes. So these things as if become a norm. This is not normal. So remember when the first ayah I mentioned, Allah created all this. We had dispute among each other, but Allah set the standard. The truth, if when we do that things, we remember our Creator. If we do that thing, whatever we would like to do, but that thing, that activity, that event does not really bring us nearer to Allah. Even now we are studying. You are studying medicine. We said the doctor, whatever you do, it will give you hasanah. This is considered as ibadah. But ibadah is something that brings you closer to Allah. If you are doing something which cause you not to remember Allah, when you do something and because of you doing that, somehow you don't have time to pray, to perform salah, and by doing that you cannot respect people, your patient, and then you cannot respect Allah. So this is something that brings you closer to Allah. If you are doing something which cause you not to remember Allah, when you do something and because of you doing that, you don't have time to pray, to perform salah, and by doing that you cannot respect people, your patient, and then you cannot respect So that is not ibadah. Ibadah means your relationship with human being, and more importantly, whatever you do, it brings back you to Almighty Allah. Whatever you do, it brings back you to Allah, closer to Allah. If it is not bringing you closer to Allah, muhasabah. Look what you are doing. So those are very important. And then nowadays, the terrorism and war, so people to the extent they kill each other for the sake of they believe they are right, so they can kill other peoples. And nowadays we have so many huge buildings all around us, but there are many people who are still in poor in those big cities. Are we building really a nation? You see here, we put material. We see people are racing to build higher and taller buildings, and they for them there is a pride. They're proud to have those buildings. So is it really important here? And nowadays very common, family breakdown, bercerai, divorce is very common. So yeah, some of you might also have parents who already divorced, right? Those are something stated already, but we ourselves in this situation, family is very important institution. Family is very important institution. Men and women should work together, not work against each other. We should work together. We complement each other. So as a husband, you must know your rights. You must know what your wife, the rights of your family on you. So what are your duty on them, and the wife should know what duty that you have to fulfill. You should know, you should understand your responsibility, not claim your right. You should know your responsibility and give them, fulfill the responsibility, not claiming the right. And nowadays we always benchmark ourselves with the West when Allah give us Quran, and that should be our benchmark. And if we try to please the non-believer, we won't be able to do that, no matter what we do, because Allah mentioned in Quran, walan tarda ankal yahud walan nasara hatta tattabi'a millatahum. They will never be pleased with you until you follow their steps one after another. So in our life, we should try to please Allah, not trying to please other people. So in conclusion, what lessons we can learn from civilization? Allah has mentioned clearly in Quran, there's a good and bad. Allah keep on sending from all the 25 prophets that we know, and more than 200,000 Zambia alayhi salatu wassalam has been sent to the world, from one tribe to another, maybe many at a time, but basically the story is the same. People are okay today, and after a while they're going astray. Because why? When the work of da'wah, the work of asking people to do good things stop, people become forgot about Allah, who is the creator. They will forget. Our generation, our children will forget if we don't tell this. This is the work of da'wah, must be continuously done, so that people will always remember. So now, until the last ummah, the ummah of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, our responsibility to do the da'wah. That's why no other ummah able to become the witness of the previous anbiya except the ummah of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, because we also do the work of da'wah. The only important thing that we inherit, the work of anbiya, is now on our shoulders, so that we are the last ummah before Yaumul Qiyamah. We are the last ummah. So all the civilization go up and stabilize, fall, decline, again, repeat the cycle, keep on again. And then the way people focus shift from the best technology they have, from communication, from the readings, all those things. And you know that civilization, people characterized by the materials, the structure. Islam is not that. So we learn from all these things and try to improve our life and the life of people all over the world. I think that's all from me. These are all my references. Later, inshallah, I will share the slides with you. With that, I thank you. Um, if you have any questions, just try to email me. My email is arjamal@iium.edu.my. arjamal, one word, @iium.edu.my. With that, I thank you. Assalamu alaikum.